Hi, I'm Kevin Pardo, and this is Janet Provenzano. Janet, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, sure. My name is Janet Provenzano. My schooling, my background is in healthcare management, although I've done many things over the years. One of the most important, the one that had the largest imprint on myself and what I do part-time now, I was a personal trainer for about 20 years. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about people, you learn a lot about yourself. Anyone going into that field, I think if you're highly motivated, it's a good place to be, and it's a good time to be in that field.
So, Janet, what is it that got you to be a personal trainer? What is it that inspired you to be?
You know, it was my own personal journey. Like everyone else, when you go to the gym, you seem to find yourself creating little patterns and routines for yourself. Sometimes they're effective, sometimes they're not. You resort to magazine articles, and what you find is a lot of workout plans that may not necessarily be suited to you. So basically what ended up happening is I ended up having to give in and get myself a personal trainer. Best thing I'd ever done for myself because, well, number one, it was a good trainer. So let me step back. You got to find yourself a good trainer. And just like any time you're going to lay money into something, you got to do your background. Look, see how many years they've been in the business. Take a look at some of the clients they're working with now, and that's just not, that's their timeliness too. It's their work ethic. So their work ethic combined with what kind of results they're getting, what they specialize in. So I ended up doing that for myself. I just needed some basic bumpers, as I would say, some do's and don'ts for beginners. Because obviously as you progress, the training progresses. You can do bigger things, you can do larger movements. It's an acceleration, but I needed somebody to start me out, and that's how I got the drive to do it. Is once I had it all sorted out, what worked for me. I wasn't really sure what worked for everybody else, but I knew this was something that was teachable. The very basics were teachable.
Okay. What would you describe in your career as a personal trainer to be the positives of your career and the negatives of your career?
I mean, the positives of the career, I could go on a list from. I'm going to start with the negatives. We'll just get that out of the way because it's a short list. But there is a couple things. Number one, you have to remember that you could be going from 5 in the morning till 10 at night because you really do have to relegate yourself to people's schedules. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest down point. The other is, unless you're working for a facility, your income is entirely dependent on how hard you want to work. Okay? And a lot of that, longevity in clients, keeping a client for a long period of time involves them seeing results. So every day when you go to work, you need to be result oriented for this particular client. That's how you get them to stay, right? They want results. Every client's different. You'll find that there's only so many clients that you can service in a day. So you really have to kind of find a way to balance because you need to have a life, right? You need a personal life. You need to have time for yourself. Yeah. And when your schedule really is dictated by other schedules, that can be a major downfall. Okay. There's two ways to go. You could be a private trainer or you can work for a facility. When you work for a facility, they usually give you set hours. But on the other hand, you're going to split your money. Mm-hmm. Being a private trainer, you're not going to split your money except for you and the IRS, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, they always have a hand in something. But you're able to dictate, when you work, how you work. You just need to know when you can say yes to a client and when you can say no, as far as being able to accommodate their schedule. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Apart from being a personal trainer, you also have some time that you were bodybuilding. How did that come to play?
I did. Again, going back to the positives of training, it is a progression. And when I was doing my own personal journey, every day the workout would get better, you become more solid, you have a better understanding. It also involves, so it's not just the exercise portion of it, it's the eating portion. Once you start to understand the nutrition side, because the two have to go hand in hand. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't see really great results. You may feel a little more energetic, but you're not going to look any different in the mirror, right? Let's face it. And everybody wants to look better in the mirror. So the positives would be, as I progressed, things started to click. The exercise was correlating with the nutrition. I'll be honest, the best book I ever read was, I think, Lee Labrada's bodybuilding book. He had one out, and in there he had sample diets and just went through the whole gamut of diet and exercise. And I don't even know where to begin to explain about this book. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. I'm sure you can. But it is where the light bulb finally went off for me, between the spot on workouts and making sure your nutrition coordinated. And then as far as competing, it was a matter of understanding how to manipulate the exercise and the calories in order to lean out. Okay, that's when I started to see extreme results, because that's when you're doing the two. It's a full-time job, because you're eating. I was eating like 6 times a day.
Oh, wow.
Which is small meals 6 times a day. I was working out once or twice a day. But remember, I owned a gym. I didn't mention that, but I owned a gym. So for me, it was easy. I had the time, I had the place, I could get it done. And, I went into Figure, which is done on a bodybuilding stage. It's not bodybuilding, but it's done on a bodybuilding stage, and it's the same organization. I was doing Figure basically the year after it started, which I think was around 2004, 2005, and I did that for about 6 or 7 years. But the biggest attraction for me with that was really learning how to dial in my exercise, my cardio, and my eating and my training and my eating and my training. But again, it was a full-time job. It really was. It consumed a lot of my time, but I would never turn that clock back and change any of it, because the understanding you have of how your body reacts to foods, amounts of foods, to certain foods, is the only way you can gain that understanding is by doing it. And that's what that experience taught me.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last question would be, for somebody who's coming into the field of personal training or bodybuilding or anything like in that field, what would you recommend as tips for them to advance forward?
If you want to be a good trainer, the best advice I can give you is, number one, your work ethic needs to be good. You need to show up, and you need to show up on time. The second thing is, when you're working with clients, you have to keep it very simple. Clients don't have the same understanding of exercise and nutrition that you have. And you almost have to piece it to them. I mean, you have to let them see it work. So my biggest advice is, don't use big words. Keep it simple. Okay, keep the progression moving, and don't burn them out. It's very simple. Yeah. I've seen trainers do it time and time again. Somebody new comes in, and what they think is a simple workout, as far as a trainer thinks this is an easy work. It's not an easy workout for somebody who's not worked out in a long time.
Yeah.
You have to have a really good understanding of who your client is, what their medical issues are, and then you start them really, really slow. And you have to work based on who they are, what they are, okay? And then work towards where they want to be, as long as it's realistic where they want to be. At 55 years old, I'm not going to be 5'5", 120 pounds. Not like, when I was young, right? It doesn't work like that. At 5'5", a woman my age, you want to be a healthy, 125, 130, probably 130, 135. It goes up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have to give yourself a little bit of allowance for that, because I don't run the way I used to run. I don't exercise the way I used to exercise. It hurts more now. So you have to keep in mind age, and you have to keep in mind lifestyle. The one thing I will encourage is, when you want to become a new trainer, is you have to understand there's the whole wellness continuum, and you need to understand that, because this is especially true with women, not just women, but it's especially true with women, is that people aren't overweight simply because they overeat. There's usually something driving that, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether there's other things going on in their lives that may be creating the overeating. What stresses do they have? Now, we can't cure everything, but you have to keep that in mind, because it's not just hand to mouth. There's a lot of emotion sometimes in some people that's creating that behavior that they're trying to correct through exercise. Well, I'll be honest, if somebody's a chronic overeater, a stress eater, right? Or habits, marijuana is now legal. Marijuana makes you munch. I can't, we got to keep up with what you got going on in your life.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So you just got to keep that in mind. You have to get people, I try not to get too deep into their personal stuff, but I will get in enough to find out what other issues might inhibit us getting where we want to go. Make sense?
Yeah.
So a new trainer has to be cognizant of that. You have to be aware of that. So keep it very simple and understand who you're dealing with, why they are the way they are, what motivates them to do what they do. So there's a whole thing. It's not just you go in, you exercise, you train, and they leave. It's a lot more than that for a good trainer. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay?
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, this is our time. This is Janet Provenzano. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
All right.